A day meant for joy, for family, and for celebration turned into one of unimaginable sorrow. On April 26, 2025, Vancouver's Filipino community came together to celebrate the Lapu Day Block Party, a vibrant festival honoring Filipino heritage, heroism, and unity. The streets were alive with laughter and music. The smell of home-cooked Filipino dishes like adobo, lechon, and pancit floated through the air. Children raced each other between food stands. Elders told stories about the bravery of Lapu and the pride of being Filipino. Families who had traveled from far suburbs gathered shoulder to shoulder with friends and neighbors. It was a moment of happiness, a reminder of resilience, and a showcase of culture that had traveled across oceans to be kept alive here, in Canada. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky faded into twilight, what was meant to be a day of pride was forever scarred by senseless violence. As festival volunteers began packing up tents, folding chairs, and removing temporary street barriers, the crowd slowly started to thin out. Some were lingering, taking pictures under colorful lights strung across the street. Others were gathering belongings, laughing, making plans to meet again next year. Then, in a flash, everything changed. A gray SUV accelerated straight into the gathering. Without warning, without hesitation. Witnesses said it was as if the driver intended to hit as many people as possible. Families were ripped apart in an instant. A mother screamed for her missing child. A grandfather trying to shield his grandchildren was struck down. Stalls collapsed under the force of impact. Shrieks, cries for help, confusion, it all blended into a nightmare. When first responders arrived, they were met with a scene of devastation. Dozens of injured people lay scattered across the pavement. Many were unconscious. Some would never wake again. In the horrifying aftermath, 11 innocent lives were lost. Victims ranged from a 5-year-old girl who had just finished her first festival dance performance, to a 65-year-old grandfather who had attended every Lapu Day for the past 10 years. Over 30 others were rushed to nearby hospitals, many in critical condition, many undergoing emergency surgeries to save their lives. The driver was quickly apprehended at the scene. Identified as 30-year-old Kai G. Adam Low, he was taken into custody without resistance. In the following hours, authorities released initial findings. Low was a resident of Vancouver. He had a known history of mental health struggles and previous interactions with law enforcement. However, investigators found no immediate evidence suggesting ties to terrorism, organized hate groups, or any political motivations. This was not an act of terrorism in the traditional sense. It was a catastrophe born out of personal instability and reckless violence. Yet, for the grieving families, explanations offered little comfort. For them, the result was the same: their loved ones were gone. Low was charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, a charge defined by acts that are intentional but not premeditated. Prosecutors quickly announced that more charges were likely as they reviewed the full list of casualties. Court documents detailed that Low had been flagged in the past for erratic behavior but had never been deemed a major threat. It was a chilling reminder that danger can come even when warning signs are not fully understood or addressed. News of the attack spread across Vancouver within minutes. By sunrise, the Filipino community, and indeed the whole city, was plunged into mourning. Candlelight vigils were organized almost immediately. At the festival grounds, families laid flowers where loved ones had fallen. Portraits of the victims, draped in traditional Filipino colors, were surrounded by hundreds of flickering candles. Each flame a memory, each tear a prayer. Filipino BC, one of the largest community organizations, set up support networks overnight. Churches opened their doors for counseling sessions. Fundraisers for medical bills and funeral expenses flooded social media. Even strangers, touched by the horror, donated and offered their condolences. "This was our family," one woman said through tears during a vigil. "Even if you didn't know them personally, this was us. Our community. Our blood." From teenagers to elders, the sorrow was universal. Across conversations, the same question kept coming up. How could such a beautiful day end like this? The shockwaves from the tragedy did not end at Vancouver's borders. In the Philippines, the news dominated headlines. Families with relatives in Canada waited anxiously for updates. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. issued a formal statement expressing his grief and solidarity with the victims. He emphasized the strength of the Filipino spirit and pledged government support for the affected families through the Philippine Embassy in Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney also addressed the nation in an emotional broadcast. He spoke of Canada's deep ties to the Filipino community, calling them an essential, beloved part of our national family. He vowed that the victims would receive the justice and support they deserved. Offers of help came from Filipino communities across the globe, from Los Angeles, New York, Dubai, Hong Kong. Prayers, donations, messages of solidarity poured in. In tragedy, the Filipino value of bayanihan, communal unity and mutual support, shone brightly across borders. In the days after the attack, questions began to rise. Hard, painful questions. Could this have been prevented? Why weren't stronger vehicle barriers in place? Should there have been tighter security controls, even during the festival's closing hours? City officials promised immediate reviews of public event safety protocols. Proposals included installing permanent steel-reinforced barriers for all major outdoor events, increasing police presence even during breakdown hours, and revisiting mental health intervention policies. The City Council pledged that the safety of multicultural events, like Lapu Day, would be taken seriously, and not just during the main festivities, but from start to finish. Yet, even with promises of change, many in the Filipino community say that no policy can erase the pain that has already been inflicted. Plans have begun to memorialize the victims. Community leaders and city officials are collaborating to create a permanent monument at the site of the tragedy. The memorial will honor each of the 11 lives lost, their names and faces forever etched into Vancouver's heart. A place where future generations can come to remember. A place where sorrow can be met with strength. A place where grief transforms into resilience. Already, a design competition is being planned, with artists from both Canada and the Philippines invited to submit ideas for the tribute. The memorial will not only commemorate loss, it will celebrate life, unity, and the spirit of a people who refuse to be broken. In the face of horror, the Filipino community in Vancouver stands strong. They stand with tears in their eyes, but also with their heads held high. They sing their songs of hope louder. They tell their stories more proudly. They teach their children the meaning of courage and unity more fiercely. For the victims, for the survivors, and for all who love them, the promise is clear. You will never be forgotten. You will be remembered in every dance, in every song, in every meal shared, in every prayer whispered. To those who grieve, know that you are not alone. Across Vancouver, across Canada, across the oceans to the Philippines and beyond, millions grieve with you. And millions stand ready to help you rebuild. Because even in the darkest nights, the Filipino spirit burns brighter than ever.
Thank you for listening.
Stay safe, hold your loved ones close, and may we all walk forward with greater compassion, greater courage, and greater love.